You need 3 claps.
Seems like
3 claps.
Oh yeah, you're gonna give me the clap. Good. Only seems like 2 years since we were last here doing this. So apologies for my absence last year. So I was going to think of just kicking off with a little bit of what's coming up, what Mantic have got planned, and then we'll go into any questions and answers that anyone has, and we'll try and answer them as best you can. So firstly, thank you all for coming. It's really lovely to kind of cut away from the crowd and come and spend an evening with the fans of Mantic. You know, you're the reason we're here, and it means a lot to us. So thank you very much. I'd like to say, before I forget, thank you to all the Pathfinders. I'm sure we'll give them a big round of applause. They're working all day, running tournaments, events in the stand, and then all evening they're here. And in exchange, we give them a couple of slices of pizza.
Hearty handshake.
Hearty handshake and lots of sarcasm. So they love the pain. Okay, probably some of you may have been expecting a Hornet this evening, which is a big flying thing. Of course, I'm not going to throw anyone under a bus, but China being what it is and delivery, we've got all your names and addresses. There's 2 things you can do. If you want to come by the stand tomorrow, you've got a $40 credit. So if you're thinking of that $100 army deal, you can now get it for $60, and we'll just strike it off. You can take some toys home with you. If not, we will post you out in the next week or so a Hornet. The good news was we did ship them on Tuesday. The bad news was Trump's got your customs working well.
It
got sent all the way back again. So actually didn't get out of China. The Chinese decided they didn't like it. It seemed an unfeasibly small number to be sending, so they sent it back. So in their genius, they're sending it again. So the other alternative is you can go to Pat's house on Tuesday next week, and he's going to have 80 Hornets there.
Give us his address.
Yeah. What's your address, Pat?
0 Michigan Avenue.
What is it, 1006? What's that? So yeah, apologies for that. But yeah, if you want to come and get something else, we knew some of you didn't want that anyway, come to the stand. You've got a $40 credit to take away with you, or we'll post the Hornet out to you. You'll be the first people getting them in the next 2 weeks. Good, so that's the admin out of the way. Good. What do you want to talk about first?
Kings of War.
Kings of War then. We'll do Kings of War. So, well, the first thing is this year we've already released the 2018 Clash of Kings book, which has already outsold the 2017 Clash of Kings book. People are kind of getting used to the 1-year update. What was great about it is it had the outcome of last year's Eye of the Abyss campaign, which was where we hosted our first ever global campaign for Kings of War. Actually, it was hugely successful. Not only did we have thousands of games, since then the uptake of the game has been marked, particularly in the US. It had kind of plateaued out after the big upswing in the middle of 2016, but clearly that activity and getting people building their armies again and digging them out and getting those games happening has re-galvanized the kind of community, so that's great to see. So we concluded the Eye of the Abyss campaign, which resulted in a section of the Abyss getting flooded by nature because the filthy evil Abyss lost. So it sounds like there is retribution to be had. So yeah, we've got some plans for Kings of War, but the next step, in the middle of this summer, we're going to be releasing a whole heap of big monsters. Some of the bigger kits that we've been wanting to get round to. The Steel Behemoth was very successful for us. It was great as a kit, and then in Clash of Kings we realised it was a little underpowered, and we chucked it out there, and it's been very popular since. It's giving our resin manager heart attacks, which amuses me no end. So we'll be getting more of those. And what's coming out in June?
You got the is it the Slasher?
Yep, which is going to have a couple of weapon options with howders on the back of it, firing crossbows, stuff like that.
A couple of the big. I can't remember the other ones.
Genius. So that's going to keep us going through summer, where we're going to be focusing back again on Kings of War. And then really the next big focus for Kings of War is this game here. There's a couple of rule books kicking around. But the hard thing that anybody finds is when you go up to someone and you say, I'm playing this fantastic game, it's really good, it's very quick, you can play in 2 hours. They say, I'm interested, that sounds good. You've just got to paint 150 figures, maybe 200, and you can start playing, no problem. And people say, yeah, what now? So the difficulty with Kings of War is, even though you can multi-base and it's much quicker, it's getting to that point where you're able to field an army. So Vanguard is going to give us an opportunity to do two big things. One, there's a lot of people that kind of want to play, but they need a stepping on point. And Vanguard is that. It's a skirmish game. We've got the models up here. If you want to see them in their glory, they're on the stand downstairs. But we're going into the Basileans, which is a big part of the Kings of War narrative. The good guys that are so good they're nearly bad again. We've got the Abyssals that are getting another focus because they're a central part of the story. We're releasing two new armies, the first of which is the Night Stalkers, which are your evil dreams manifested on the battlefield. And those are over here. I'm having an awful lot of fun with them. It's a brand new army, really exciting and pretty disgusting stuff, particularly the big giant brain, which you'll see shortly. And then the Northern Alliance. There we go, we've got some more Alliance fans. Go the Northern Alliance. So, two new armies, two of them are getting plastics that are going to come out into the Kings of War, and a stepping on point for people that want to engage with the classic fantasy. For those of you that, I don't very often use my exec power, but when I see brand new sexy dwarfs, I do. So I stole this from the resin room. But that's an example where we're able to go back to some of our existing races with the quality that the sculptors are getting now and the resin that we're getting, and just revisiting. So you're putting some of the champions into your race, you know, or you're putting together as a gang and you're seeing these guys coming through as an elite force. The concept behind Vanguard was there's been an awful lot of fantasy skirmish games set in the ruined city in the north end of things that was hit by a meteor. I thought that had been kind of done a lot. So we specifically focused on tying it into the Kings of War as it existed, and rather than making a new story arc. If you're a general, you know, and you're moving your large army into position, in a few days you're going to meet your enemy with his thousands of troops and cavalry on the other side of the battlefield. And you're going to want to make sure you mess up his supply lines. You're going to want to make sure your giant arrives at the battle rather than getting drunk in the brewery that he's found on the way there. You're going to want to stop the other guy setting his signals off to call his reinforcements up. So you turn to your most trusted captain and his band of brave brothers, and you send them and say, go over there and disrupt his supplies, stop him setting fire to his signal thing, whatever these are called. Don't let him light it, keep it unlit, and get the giant to the battlefield. And so the objectives have a very strong narrative. Find the supplies that are on the spine. And we've tried to visualize that narrative through the objective counters that will be on the game. So although that will be a 2-point objective counter, it's far more material than that. So if you're playing in a competitive way, you play that as a game, you paint your troops up, you play with your gang, and as your gang gets better, or as your warband gets better, it'll level up. And you can have a classic tournament that way. Much easier buy-in, classic fantasy, all with our own twist now, but relatively easy stepping on points. However, if you want to play on a Tuesday night 2 or 3 scenarios, and then on Sunday play a big game of Kings of War, you can actually play that whoever has the giant at the end of the giant scenario gets the giant in their Sunday game. If you disrupt his supplies, you get 50 more points to spend on war machines than he does. So there is an absolute explicit way of taking your skirmish game, your 1 hour skirmish games, and applying them to your mass battle games. And that the outcome of one of your games can directly affect the start of the other, which I think is kind of cool. So you can play it both in and of itself, but it's also set in the wider narrative of Kings of War. And it's going to allow us to do whole heaps of very cool things for the existing Kings of War armies. So I'm specifically looking at kind of the larger humanoid or two-man weapon team style stuff. So we can trial stuff before putting them in future Clash of Kings into the main game. So the Ogre Palace Guard, which is an ogre that works for the Basileans. So he's a fully play-mailed up ogre thing that sits right in the centre. We can see how that could be a 3-man large unit in a future Basilean army list. So we're able to put cool, funky, sexy things right into the core of the game, but in a tried and tested way, and in a way that merits individual sculpts. So when we're finished, here's the Basileans, this is the Nightcrawlers, here's Stonehenge, and then you've got, I'll leave them over here, but these are your objective counters to give you a narrative bit. This is a dwarf. That's just the first of the new dwarf faction. I don't know why the first faction ended up being dwarf. It's just one of those lucky things, I think. It just happens. That's what it is. Any questions on King's War?
I foolishly thinking like back to Kickstarter. What's the price point going to be for the base game for Vanguard?
I think by $79 or $89. That'll be two factions. There might be a board in it. It's the only thing, but we'll probably just to make it kind of get out of the box and play. I don't know. That's the one debate about whether we have a board that people fold out into a straight 4x4, or we just leave them to throw a mat down and play from that. People love a bit of board these days. I'm not convinced. Yes, sir.
Who do I need talking about the Mammoth Guinea Strider?
About a what?
Mammoth Guinea Strider, who do I need talking about?
I got Mammoth,
Yes.
Negan, Strider.
Yes. He needs it.
Means Strider.
It's too long a game, so he can't be a...
You have siege breakers.
Mammoth Guinea Strider.
So we speak a language called English. I think you kind of have it, but you know.
He's from West Virginia.
There you go. That's it.
Mammoth Guinea Strider.
That was spot on.
So how long until you guys do a Salamander Hero for the slasher that's coming out and turning into a fire grade? Because it
Great idea, Stuart. Make a what is it? A rider for
we
the.
just have to make a rider, right? Turn it into Clan Lord on fire grade.
Do that.
They put more fire drakes in their army than they do slashers. So there you go.
Right, we need a fire drake. More fire drakes.
Note to self.
Note to self. Like it. Yeah, no, I think that stuff is having our own in-house resin is liberating.
Well, it looks really good, I think, for both, right? It would fit the sound.
Yeah, no, and yeah, when you sculpted the big thing to reskin it, we did it with the undead worm. You know, we did one with the wings, one without. An undead worm without wings hadn't been done kind of by anybody, so we pulled that out. But we knew a lot of people were running it with the wings because that's how they were fighting it. So you just get the sculptor when he's doing the work to design it both ways. And our resin, having our own resin in house is changing things. I mean, what you're going to see in that room with Hellboy, he literally arrived at 9 o'clock from the 3D printer. By 4 o'clock, we got him copied, we got him into a master mold, and you know, he's here now. We're able to use it, which is great for sizing, and you know, we can put them into production, and the quality is perfect. Which you couldn't get big kits in metal; they don't work, and plastic. Sometimes it just isn't the volume. So all of that stuff is becoming very, very doable, and we're excited by it. Yellow shirt and a black.
So I got about $375 on the Kickstarter, hoping that the Northern Alliance army lists become fairly decent for Kings of War. Do we have any idea when perhaps a beta list may come out, or what
Yeah.
the Army Special rules going to be? Anything really?
So when you focus on a game, you kind of you have to. A lot of the Kings of War Rules Committee are on Vanguard at the moment,
Okay.
and it's hard when you kind of change scale
Right.
because you essentially it becomes with Vanguard very narrative, very individual figure. Your basic rank and file troopers are a major player in the game, and your heroes are the same as hordes and regiments. So I think that will be. I mean, there's 2 early rule books kicking around here today, and some of the cards are kicking around that you'll be using for your faction. So this will be going off to print mid-late summer, and then they're going to go. Oh, got another Alliance army to sort out, and Nightcrawler's army. So I think they will be kicking around towards the end of the year for some beta testing and for some playing. We may well have them in Clash of Kings 2019, which this year we're going to launch in December, because there's that hiatus where people start having tournaments in January and they're trapped between getting the rules early enough to do it. So the plan is that we put the next year's book out in December, and then Easy Army can pick up on it, have it from 1st of Jan to get going. So that's that. It's definitely rolling in.
What was I had an idea for race-specific magic items.
Yep.
Do you think they'd, like goblins would ever have their own items, ogres have their own items? Like 1 to 3 items, nothing big or flashy. Just something that's specific to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you would know, we want magic and magic items to add flavour to the game, not be dominant. We want it to be about soldiers and units and armies. But I think as the game is getting bigger and we're getting more players, each race can just get that bit more colour. And I definitely think, these card decks that we've been doing have been really successful, because it's just a great way of changing it out and adding to it each year. And so I think we're getting kind of braver on that front, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we didn't probably do a heap of some of that in Vanguard, where it can be very specific, and then roll some of that out into Clash of Kings 2019. Last one on Kings of War, and then we're going to move on.
So, you said Clash of Kings 2019. When are you having any idea when you're looking at perhaps 3rd edition?
Sure do.
Yes.
Very quick.
This t-shirt's 9 years old. Yeah, Mantic's going to be 10 years old next year. 2019 is our 10-year anniversary. Still here, still swinging, and I think if we'd said a few years ago we were going to be able to fill 85 people in a room. So yeah, it's just getting interesting. We've got some very big projects coming up, but we're also able to keep supporting the projects that we've got. I mean, the final thing that I'll just say on Kings of War, but it's moving into something else, is we've signed up a book license, and the first book is going to be coming out. When is it coming out, Vince? June. Okay. Do you want to tell everyone around it? So Vince runs Winged Hussar, and then we're putting our books out. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how fantastic our books are going to be.
Well, they are going to be fantastic.
There we go. That's
Ronnie and I know each other a long time from another company. But I started Winged Hussar 4 years ago. We're now up to, I guess, about 40 different titles. Down on the staff there. We do a lot of history books, a lot of fiction that's tied to games. And we're very excited about doing the Mantic line. We're going to do not only Kings of War, we're going to do Warpath, we're going to do Dreadball, and just about any other game they've got, we'll find something. At the moment, the first book that's coming out is called War Kings. It's coming out in early June, late May. It's going to be an anthology that we've got mostly put together. We've also got 2 other Kings of War books scheduled and a Dreadball book scheduled, and 2 Warpath. My alter ego talking. 2 Warpath novels. Now the first of the novels, full novels, are coming out in January, and we'll have a regular schedule after that. Probably every 2 months or so, we'll have something. As I said, the first one is an anthology that we've already done. We've got some authors signed up to do some novels. At some point, we will solicit for an anthology of short stories from whoever wants to submit, but please don't entertain the website. I'll let you know what it is, and we'll give you a wide window to do what the submission guidelines are going to be. But if you have any questions, I don't want to take away from this, come down and see us in the stand tomorrow. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Or if you catch me later, or Brandon later, who's my editor, we'll answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Vince.
Just in case, there'll also be ebooks for this. And our distribution is such that it'll be available in the US, UK, Australia, Canada, and just about anywhere.
Okay. Great, thank you. So we've got books coming. It's been asked for. We're actually partnered with a proper book company now to sell books. And you're going to pick them up from those guys. So sign up on the newsletter, you'll find out about it. We'll keep you all posted. Obviously, Dreadball's relaunching. We're here at the event. We had 12 people yesterday.